Hello everybody and welcome to Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. I'm Jack and today I'm here with another Sun and Moon deck analysis for you guys. It's going to be a bit of a revived archetype in this video. We're going to be looking at Aquabox, all focused around the new Lapras GX card. It's an archetype that's been seen do well in the past, and it's kind of going to be revived with the new Lapras GX. Like I say, very good, strong attacker. So we feel this archetype's got a lot going for it going into this new Sun and Moon format. So we will start out with Lapras GX. We're running 3 of them. I'm going to leave the translation in the description, but I'll go through it here anyway. 190 HP, GX Pokemon, so the new GX ruling, in case you're unaware, acts very similarly to the EX ruling. When you knock out a GX Pokemon, you take 2 prizes. However, GXs can be basic or like Stage 1 or Stage 2s. But in this case, the only GX we've got in here is Lapras, which is a basic. And the other thing to note is they have a special attack called a GX attack, which I'll go over in a second. Just a couple other little things to point out. Weak to grass, which I think is a bit of a hindrance, but still, I think it's still a really good card, even though it is weak to grass. And 2 retreat, which isn't too bad. It could be worse, considering Lapras is a pretty chunky Pokemon. So 2 retreat isn't too bad. So we've got 3 attacks on this Lapras, 190 HP as well. I think I mentioned it, but just in case I didn't. So yeah, the first attack is a really nice, just for 1 water, it's called Collect, draw 3 cards. Really nice sort of setup attack, turn 1, just getting you into some more cards to be able to do some more in the following turns. You're probably not going to be using this too much, but whenever you're in a pinch, you need some card draw, you haven't quite got enough energy for its other 2 attacks. Collect is not a bad attack to use at all. Second attack for 3 water, does a 160 damage, it's called Blizzard Burn, and this Pokemon can't attack during a next turn. Is worth noting because we do run a Ninja Boy in here, so the Ninja Boy effect will carry over to new Pokemon. However, we also run a Ranger, so we can get around it if we don't want to Ninja Boy in the same turn. But yeah, 160 damage is just a really solid number. Not quite 180 or 170, which is where we'd like it to be, simply because we could then be able to one-shot some EXs, but that's why we're running Fighting Fury Belt, so we can reach that 170 mark and knock out EXs in one shot for 3 energy, which is really nice. And then his GX attack, Ice Beam GX, does 100 damage for water colourless, and your opponent's Pokemon is now paralysed, so auto paralysis is really good. Something to note, GX attacks, you can only use 1 per game, so you've really got to think about when you want to use this GX attack, when it's really going to be beneficial to you, especially as it gives auto paralysis. You need to be able to work it into a turn where you know your opponent's perhaps going to struggle to get out of this paralysis lock, which is just going to buy you another turn. So yeah, a really nice attacker. It's got the sort of inbuilt draw to be able to help you through, and it's got a really big attack in Blizzard Burn, so yeah, definitely a really nice attacker. Like I say, you do take 2 prizes when you knock out this guy, but that's the same with all GXs. As with any Aquabox list, we're then running 2 Manaphy-ex, pretty much solely for this Aquatube ability. 120 HP. Aquatube means that all of our Pokemon with water energy attached to them have free retreat. So whilst the 2 retreat is chunky, it doesn't really matter with this guy. We don't need to worry about running float zones or anything because it's all built in an ability. Obviously Garb can shut this off, but we do still have outs to be able to deal with Garb and get out of tough active spots if we're ever not against Garb. Mineral Pump is a nice attack, 60 and heal 30 from everything on the bench. If you find yourself using it, you could save yourself a couple of easy prizes on the bench, but more than anything, we're running Rough Seas anyway, so you're probably not going to want to be using this attack too much. More than anything in here for the ability. Next up, we've got 2 Articuno and 1 Glaceon-EX. So these 3 slots are kind of dedicated to the different types of water attackers you can play in an Aquabox style build, depending on your meta, depending on what the format's shaping up. At the moment we've got 1 Glaceon and 2 Articuno, simply because there's a lot of new GX Pokemon and a lot of evolution cards that are coming out that actually may be pretty good going into this format, and therefore with the Articunos we're able to pick off the baby evolutions with his second attack, drawing an extra prize, treating them as if they're EXs, which is really nice. And then with Glaceons, if they ever get set up, we can lock them out of using their evolution Pokemon. So that's the split we've gone for at the moment. There are obviously things like Regice that you can also use. So these 3 slots are kind of dependent on what you feel your meta is going to involve. Just a little bit more about the cards themselves. Articuno, his first attack, you flip your opponent's Pokemon is now asleep, but then they flip a coin. So 50% chance of keeping your opponent's Pokemon asleep. Very similar to the paralysis. It can be really annoying for your opponent to get out of, especially if they don't run many switching cards or many evolution cards, things like that. And then Tri-Edge for water colorless does 20, and then you flip 3 coins. For every heads, you add 40 damage on. So that means there's a lot of new evolution Pokemon that start with basics with around 60 HP. It means that you can take 2 prizes as long as you get 1 coin flip heads, which is really nice. It can push you ahead in a game. This was often seen around when Night March was doing well because they had a lot of low HP basics. And it means that you can sort of go ahead against these non-EX decks, or these decks that run GXs but have very low HP baby evolutions. Just means that you can sort of go ahead against those and try and do a little bit more. Then we've got the Glaceon-EX, like I said, 170 HP. First attack, second bite for water colorless, does 20 damage plus 10 for each damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon. So this combos well with something like something that doesn't quite get a knockout, something like the GX attack, Ice Beam. If you can Ninja Boy into this, you can get a second bite off, which is really nice. But then we've also got Crystal Ray for water and 2 colorless energy. Does 70 damage and prevents any effective attacks, including damage, from your opponent's evolution Pokemon. So we're kind of predicting there'll be a few more evolutions in the format now, considering a lot of these GX cards are pretty solid. So because of that, we've got sort of an inbuilt counter to that as well. Obviously, only one of these is a bit of an issue. Sometimes it can be prized, things like that. But if you feel there's going to be more evolutions, maybe you could swap an Articuno. However, the Articunos do help with that anyway, just because, like I say, you're able to take prizes on the sort of baby evolutions early, or lower forms. And then finally, of course, 2 Shaymin to keep us cycling through the deck. No Hooper is one thing to note, but we don't run too many EXs, so the 2 Shaymin themselves should be enough cycle in general just to keep us running through, especially with the collect from Lapras as well. Onto the trainers, we're running 4 Sycamore, which is pretty standard. 3N, which is becoming more and more standard. I really like 3N at the moment. There's a lot of aggro decks out there that can sort of be punished if they end to a low hand size. And then if you're doing really well, you can punish your opponents if they're kind of keeping up with you as well. A lot of the energy stays on the board, running things like Energy Switch, so we can prevent a lot of our energy getting knocked out later down the line. So it means that ends aren't too painful for us either. 2 Lysandre, again, pretty standard in most lists, just being able to pick off easy prizes. With the Fighting Fury belts, we can hit some pretty nice numbers, so it means that we can pick up the prizes as and when we need them on anything on the bench. Can take out things like Garbodor as well. So yeah, just 2 really good, 2 Lysandre because it's a really good card at the moment. 1 Pokemon Ranger, obviously. Lapras, Lapras's Blizzard Burn attack means that he can't attack next turn, so we want to be able to stop our opponents abusing that. We want to be able to chain attacks. It's just the same sort of logic as why you run a Ranger and Volcanion. It means that you're not slowing yourself down too much as well. Also for things like Jolteon that can lock down the whole deck because we're completely basic. It means we can get around effects like that as well. Hex Maniac, again, just a really good card at the moment, slowing opponents down. It means that Volcanion, again, isn't an issue. They can still one-shot things, even though they're weak to us, they can still one-shot things. So if we can sort of slow them down for just 1 turn with the Hex, things like that, that can slow them down. In general, again, it's just a really, really good card. I really like Hex at the moment. We've seen how popular Garbodor is, so having a supporter version of Garbodor in a deck that isn't too reliant on abilities, sort of consistently, you can move all your stuff around and then Hex, so you don't have to use Manaphy. It's a really nice card to have. And then Ninja Boy, finding the specific attacker for the specific matchup is really nice. Finding your second Articuno or your Glaceon is sort of these kind of things are really nice. Also being able to search out Manaphy and get rid of something that you're not going to use in the matchup. Maybe Glaceon is just going to be a liability in the matchup. Being able to just search out like that the Pokemon that you need is really nice. Obviously Ninja Boy, I think, actually gets a lot better with this format. Again, I think Sun and Moon brings a lot to this format. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of new cards, or a lot of old cards that we see sort of coming back, and Ninja Boy is one of them. Got 4 VS Seeker, pretty standard, and 4 Max Elixir. So this is our energy acceleration in the deck. Being able to double Elixir and attach means that we can set up a Llpras in a turn, meaning that next turn all we need to do is find a way of retreating, and we can start doing 160 damage per turn, which is really, really strong. And yeah, it's just a really, really good form of acceleration. We're running 12 water energy, which I'll get to in a second. So it means that we're going to be hitting a lot of... we're going to be likely to hit a lot of targets with Max Elixir. So they're pretty much strong, viable cards throughout the game. Some decks only run maybe 9 or 10 targets, maybe even 8. And at that point, when you get into the later stages of the game, it means that Max Elixir is very unlikely to be activated when you look through the top 6. But because we're running 12 energy, it means that these are pretty much viable all the way through the game. So yeah, it's just a really, really good form of acceleration. And then when paired with the energy switch, which I'll get to in a second, it means that you can set up things turn 1, which again is just really, really crazy, and it means that you can apply a lot of pressure. Again, pretty standard. We've got 4 Ultra Ball, discard fodder for Shaymin, discard fodder for anything you don't need to be able to search for whatever you do need. Yeah, just a pretty standard card. Along with 2 Dive Ball. Obviously everything but Shaymin is water type, so it means these are universal search cards. I could potentially see going to a 3-3, but I think 2-4 is pretty good at the moment, just to be able to get maximum value from Shaymin and then still be able to draw a fair amount off of the Llpras ability, the Llpras attack, sorry. But yeah, Dive Ball is really, really good in a deck like this, just because it searches out pretty much the entire deck. Then got 3 Trainer's Mail, just cycling, keeping your hand sort of with options. We've got a lot of trainers in here. There's only 22 non-trainer cards, so it means, again, much like Max Elixir, you're going to be hitting a lot of targets a lot of the time. So yeah, really, really nice card. 3 Energy Switch, paired with Max Elixir, means that we can turn 1, get set up turn 1. Things like Blizzard Bird turn 1 isn't unheard of at all. Other than that, just being able to preserve energy. If you can see your opponent's going to be able to knock you out next turn, maybe saving 1 or 2 of those energy is just going to be really, really helpful. Yveltal is undoubtedly, I think, the best deck in format at the moment, and one of the things that Yveltal does best is energy preservation. Being able to Y-Cyclone the energy off and still sort of have an attacker set up for next turn is just crazy. So we're kind of doing something similar to that. Obviously it's a little bit more difficult. Maybe the best thing to use it on is Glaceon, but it does mean we have that option if we'd rather save the energy and we don't feel an attack's doing much for us this turn. However, because we have things like the GX attack, which has auto paralysis, it means that we can still get away with maybe an extra turn of attacking, things like that. So yeah, it's just kind of, the main thing is to be able to set up turn 1, but having sort of some inbuilt recovery rather than things like Super Rod is really nice as well. Got 3 Fighting Fury Belt, simply because it makes a lot of numbers nicer. It turns the GX attack into 110, meaning that it one-shots a Shaymin, or in general just 2-shots a lot of things. It turns the Blizzard Burn attack into 170, which means it one-shots a lot of things. Like there's a huge amount of EXs at the moment that are being played that have 170 HP. So yeah, that's really nice. It can help with Glaceon maths, things like that. It can help with Articuno maths. There's some new evolution Pokemon that have 70 HP rather than 60. So then you still only need 1 heads if you have the Fighting Fury Belt built in. And also, along with the plus 10 damage, we gain the plus 40 HP. And as you can see, we're running 3, as you'll see in a second, we're running 3 Rough Seas as well, which just sort of adds a level of inbuilt survivability to the deck. 190 goes up to 230, plus a heal every turn of 30. Means that these Llpras get a lot of value. They take a lot of prizes, or they can do a lot of damage, and it means that your opponent has to work more for their GX, for their 2 prizes on these GX Pokemon. In general, it can save you just from your opponent being maybe 10-20 damage off the knockout if you've got this Fury Belt. So yeah, that's pretty much why we're running Fury Belt. It can be put on anything in the deck, so there's no downside to it. It's just a really, really strong card for the deck and helps with a lot of numbers. And then the aforementioned 3 Rough Seas, along with the survivability of Fighting Fury Belt, being able to heal every turn is really nice. Having the free retreat to be able to move around and get a couple of heals off again is really nice. It's kind of how Greninja likes to play at the moment, in my opinion. Having free retreat on everything, and having rough seas means that you heal 90, then you can retreat out the next turn and heal 90 again, and kind of do that, and you get more healing for each rough seas that you play, or each heal that you get from rough seas. And because, like we say, we have completely free retreat with Manaphy, means that we can get a lot of value out of these rough seas, and then combined with Fighting Fury Belt, means that these Pokemon are very difficult to knock out. And then finally onto the energy. Like I said, we're running 12 of the water energy. Whole deck runs on water. You could make an argument for DCE, but I don't think it's worth it at all, because the only thing that really benefits from DCE is Glaceon. And then these kind of slots are kind of floating slots for whatever Pokemon you would like, sort of anti-meta Pokemon that you would like. So sometimes you're not even going to be playing Glaceon. So I don't think DCE really works in the deck, whilst it may seem like it does. Especially with the sort of inbuilt support of Max Elixir and Energy Switch, you can often get 2 energy on in a turn anyway, so it's like you're playing DCE, but you have the water benefit from Manaphy. And yeah, there's no real reason to play DCE. So yeah, 12 means that we're hitting Max Elixirs pretty much all the way through the game. We're always getting a turn 1 attachment, which means we're always collecting, at least, which means that we're always cycling through the deck. So yeah, in general, it means that we're doing a lot, so we're not missing things that we need to. I think the 12 energy just kind of makes sense, because there's nothing that we're really sort of missing in the deck. It's just like, it's built to be super consistent, be able to hit these energy a lot, be able to draw a lot of cards, and be able to just deal with a lot of different things. Aquabox is an archetype that's actually been popular for, like I say, we began to see it around Nationals time last year. It started to get popular around then, and I think it's a brilliant time for it to come back. Obviously, Volcanion is now around, which means you've got a really nice matchup there. We have seen on the channel a couple of really good grass decks, which could throw some hiccups into the fray, but things like Glaceon, that's why we're running things like Glaceon and Articuno at the moment, just because both of the decks we've profiled so far that are grass type have low HP basics and are based on evolutions, so it means that we have outs to be able to stop them from just overrunning us through weakness. And that's where you'll perhaps choose 3 different Pokemon based on what you think your meta is going to be around these slots here. But yeah, I wanted to keep this one kind of short and sweet. I don't want to go. There's no like real turn 1 that I can show you with this deck, I guess. But yeah, so I just wanted to profile the list, keep it quite short and sweet. If there's any questions you have in the comments, if there's any questions you have, leave them in the comments. And yeah, go and give this a try. I think Lapras is actually kind of underrated. I didn't rate it very much to start with, and then me and Joe got talking about the Aquabox sort of archetype in general and how Lapras fitted in. And actually, I think this is possibly one of the strongest GXs in the set. Definitely an underrated one. And yeah, I think we should really, you guys should go and try this, and hopefully you'll see the results. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Omnipoke, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.